Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. Come on in. Today's video is a very exciting one for me because this past Monday wasn't just any regular Monday. It was in fact Met Gala Monday. Now the Met Gala is without a doubt my favourite fashion event of the year, and this year I have much to discuss. I stayed up till 2 a.m. the other day to watch the carpet. I was taking notes on everybody's looks. Every year I kind of like post the looks that I like on my Instagram stories, but since I'm really in my YouTube jam this year, I was like, why not just make a video on it and discuss all the looks because it's so messy. And I loved the theme this year, so I took some notes and I thought, why not make a little video discussing all my thoughts as a girly who lives and breathes fashion. Now, for any of you that might be thinking, Katie, what the hell are you talking about? What is the Met Gala? It is basically a fundraising event that takes place on the first Monday in May every year to raise money for the Costume Institute at the Metropolitan Museum in New York. If you've ever watched Gossip Girl, the famous Met Steps, it's that museum, and it's hosted every year just to raise money for that, and they put on this really cool exhibition, and it's run by Anna Wintour. The biggest of celebrities attend, and they're dressed by the coolest designers, and it's just so fun and cool. Now for me, the most important detail about the Met Gala is the dress code. Every year there is a specific dress code which coincides with the theme of that year's fashion exhibition. This year's exhibition is called Costume Art, which basically explores how fashion has shaped the human body throughout history, and it has sparked some debate as to whether fashion should be considered an art form. Is fashion art, or is it simply just fashion? I read a really interesting quote the other day from Andrew Bolton, who is the Fashion Institute's curator. So he is basically in charge of coming up with these amazing exhibitions. I have it googled below so in case you see me looking down, but he said, in a way, fashion is beyond art. It embodies our lived experience, and it's the only art form that does that. I just think that was a really good nod to the exhibition and how the exhibition explores fashion shaping the human body, and it goes way back throughout history, and it's so cool. This leads on very nicely to this year's dress code, which is fashion is art, which I think is a really good opportunity for designers and the guests to really explore fashion as an art form and like prove that point, because personally I think fashion is one of the best art forms there is. However, I do feel like it's a very open-ended theme. Themes in the past have been very like that this is what it is and you're either on theme or you're off. But I feel that saying fashion is art, it kind of gives some people the excuse of passing anything off as art, which in a way I suppose they're right, but I was expecting really big, like avant-garde, cool outfits, and some people showed up in a prom dress. But they were able to go on the carpet and say, oh, well, this is inspired by this painting. So they were kind of being like, well, I am on theme actually, but you're like so boring, babe. For me personally, when I first heard this theme, my mind immediately sprung to the likes of Alexander McQueen, for example, the famous robot dress, and Schiaparelli, who is known for quite surrealist dresses and like quite avant-garde sculptural designs. And even the likes of Versace, who is very well known for like bright, vibrant colours and loads of jewels, and that's what I was expecting to see. That's what I wanted. Now, whilst I did see some of that, I feel like there was so much like monochrome and plain dresses, which to me don't scream fashion is art. But like I said earlier, these people were able to go on and be like, it was inspired by this painting. It's not doing anything for me. Like, you're at the Met Gala and the theme is fashion is art. Do something extravagant and crazy and awesome and fun. Do you know what I mean? Now, with that being said, it's time to pop on my Miranda Priestley hat and share some of my thoughts on this year's looks as a girl who is obsessed with fashion. So I'm gonna start off on a strong note and give you my top 3 looks of the evening. These looks for me are just impeccable, no notes. So first up, I have my winner. I think everybody's winner this year, and it is Miss Emma Chamberlain. I think she was the first person to show up, and she took best dressed. like no one else had a chance once she showed up. She wore a custom mugler design. I absolutely loved the colours and the textures used on this dress. I think the visible paint strokes really hone into the idea of like the body being a canvas and art is fashion. I also love how it starts off with like bright colors and like goes down into like darker colors. It adds like a grungy element to it. I don't know, I just my runner up is of course Miss Sabrina Carpenter, who wore a Dior design by Mr. Jonathan Anderson. And first of all, can I just say how cool is it for a designer from the north of Ireland to be designing, first of all, such unbelievable looks for such an iconic brand and for the Met Gala? Also, I'm going to probably do this 1,000 times throughout this video. And as a self-proclaimed cinephile, I personally think next to fashion, film is one of the best art forms out there, and I just love everything about this look. Firstly, I just think the concept of Sabrina's look is to die for. I think the dress being made out of film strips from the 1954 movie Sabrina is just so cool and unique because no one else, I don't feel like many people really like paid homage to film, and as a lover of film and cinema, I just think that was really cool thing to do. I also absolutely love the silhouette of the dress with the really high Louboutin and the wee headband with all the jewels. It also had like little nods to the movie. My third favourite look of the evening was Sabine Getty, who wore a dress from a brand called Ashy Studios. I couldn't find much background information on this outfit, but I just think visually it's stunning and it ties in really well with the exhibition's theme, exploring how like fashion embodies the human experience and also the attention to detail. Like it was like sculptural, but it looked like a painting, and the hands on her dress identically matched her hands. The dress had a ring, she was wearing a ring, like it's just so good. I on to some honourable mentions who didn't quite make my top three, but I just think they're too good not to speak about. First of all, Rihanna in her Margiela sculptural dress. I don't really know what to call it, but she looked like a living sculpture, and the amount of jewels and the details, and it complemented really well with like the bronzy but like metally tone of the dress. I just thought she slays every time anyway, always, but particularly I just think this dress, the colours just really suited her so well, and her glam and her hair matched it so good. Next I have Chase Infinity, who wore a Tom Brown dress. I absolutely love the use of like primary colours in this dress and how they used loads of like tiny beads and sequins to create an image of like the human body on the dress. I think this links really well again to the theme and the dress code, and just the level of detail and the use of different textures. This dress just looked so freaking good. Next up, I want to talk a little bit about SZA, who looked absolutely incredible in her bold dress. First of all, I just think this colour looked insane on her. It was so good, and the detail in the embroidery sections of the dress and the crystal accessories and the butterflies, I just think she deserves a pat on the back, and the designer deserves a pat on the back, because that was art right there. That I loved it. Now I want to mention these next two looks because before the Met Gala I made a TikTok predicting archival pieces that I would have loved to see at the Met Gala, and two of them made it to the Met, so I wanted to speak about those. The first one of these looks being Sabrina Carpenter's dress, not the one that she wore on the carpet, but one that she wore inside. I just think this dress is beautiful. I didn't predict the 2018 version of the dress which she had on. The one that I predicted was, I think, like the original one of those dresses from 1991. This dress is very clearly a nod to Andy Warhol and his famous pop art picture of Marilyn Monroe. I think James Dean is in there somewhere. I just think this dress is gorge, and the fact that it was in my predictions video made me feel a bit proud. The second one of my predictions that made it to the Met Gala was this vintage Vivienne Westwood jacket from the menswear collection. Jeremy Pope wore this to the Met and I just think it looks so cool. It obviously is all like beaded and this beautiful just display of the body. I just think it looks so cool, and this leads me on very well to my main critique of the evening. The same critique I have every year, a little something I like to refer to as the plain black tux brigade. Sick of seeing men turn up to the Met Gala in a plain black tux. Like, you're not going to the Oscars, darling. You are at the Met Gala. Do something extravagant, be fun and cool and out there. Why are you wearing a plain black tuxedo? Boring, sloppy. So not what I want to see. I saw many, actually more than I think ever, at this year's Met Gala, which is so ridiculous because the theme is fashion is art. Why are you wearing a plain black tux? Also, some of those guys thought by putting on a big funky jacket would distract me from the fact that they're still wearing plain black tux. So I thought, let's give a little round of applause to some of the men that I think did better. They didn't show up in a plain black tux, they wore something cool. So first up, I wanna point out Skepta, whose look was such a creative take on the theme. He wore a custom Tom Brown outfit which had his own personal tattoos embroidered onto this white suit, and I just thought that was so cool and really like creates the idea of the body being a canvas, but then they turned it into fashion, so therefore fashion is art. Next up is Mr. Coleman Domingo, who slays the house down every single time. But his look this year was a Valentino outfit, which took inspiration from an artist called Basquiat. I want to say. I have no idea how to pronounce it. They basically took inspiration from this painting called Pez Dispenser, I think is what I read, and they basically, it's a T-Rex with a crown on and it uses all these colours, and they basically took the colours from that to create this beautiful checkered like top, and then they paired it with gold jewels to represent the crown that the T-Rex had on, and he also had this really cool like pop of blue eyeshadow in there, and I just think the whole look. Next up, I want to talk about Troy Sivan. Now, initially when I saw this look, I went, jeans at the Met Gala? Really? But in the effort of giving people the benefit of the doubt, I listened to his red carpet interview and I am so thankful that I did, because it gave me a whole new outlook on his look. This look was inspired by Robert Mapplethorpe, who is a very famous, iconic photographer from New York back in the 80s, who sadly passed away due to AIDS. And I just thought it was really nice tribute for him to base his look off this. Robert Mapplethorpe is known for his self-portraits, and I just think this look really explored the idea of fashion being a form of like self-expression, and that in itself is art. To me, fashion is one of the main forms of self-expression, I think, and I think he really captured that like 1980s New York vibe in this look, and I loved it. Next up, we have some looks that didn't quite make my top 3 or my honourable mentions, but some dresses that I could not make this video without talking about. First up, we have Anne Hathaway, who wore a beautiful hand-painted Michael Kors design. I spent many hours watching this carpet and listening to what everybody had to say about their looks, and Kors said on the carpet interview that this design basically represents that fashion is wearable art and explores pace, because the dress has like doves on it, and I thought that was really good to like make that point given the state of the world at the minute, to make that point about pace and representing that sort of thing. I just thought that was really nice. Next up, I really want to talk about Olympic athlete Eileen Gu, who wore this incredible piece of like live art on the carpet. Her dress was designed by someone called Iris van Herpen and basically explored the idea of like fashion meets tech. It was very futuristic. Her dress was made out of, I think, 15,000 like little glass bubbles, and it actually had technology in the dress that allowed real bubbles to come out of the dress as she was walking the carpet, and I just thought so cool and unique, and I was glad to see a bit of live art because I actually said in my predictions video that I would love to see the Alexander McQueen robot dress, which I didn't, but I didn't see much like live art, which I thought some people definitely would have jumped at the chance. So I thought it was really cool just to see something which was actually taking place on the runway, the carpet, the steps. You get what I'm trying to say. Next up, we have Miss Kendall Jenner, who was wearing a dress designed by Zach Posen for Gap. Whilst I thought this dress was stunning when she was on the carpet, it wasn't initially one of my favorites. I did think it looked incredible, and she just always looks incredible. It didn't stand out to me really, and then she went inside and I saw this photo of her opening these huge big wings, because the dress that she wore was based on this like winged sculpture, which is based on like the Greek goddess of victory, and it's like this big winged sculpture. So first of all, I was like, why didn't you do that on the carpet? Because that is so cool. But the fact that she did it inside and we got to see the full vision of the dress, I thought once that happened it was stunning. And then Posen was actually saying on the design it was based on like a t-shirt that had been like stretched and twisted, and you can actually, when you look up close, you can see like the neckline of the t-shirt and how it's like stretched and pulled. It nearly looks like, you know, when a white t-shirt gets wet and you can like see through it. And then it obviously had like the body part of the dress, which is an ode to the theme of the exhibition, and I just thought this looked beautiful. But then she always looks beautiful. So that is the end of all my favourite outfits from the night, but it wouldn't be my video if I did not speak on some of the beautiful glam looks of the evening, because I think some of those girls' makeup's so good. First of all, I have to speak about Emma Chamberlain, who I love everything about that girl. I love everything about her look. I just think the like grungy makeup tied in really well with that like grungy element of the dress that I was talking about earlier. The burgundy colours, the bleached brows just really were so cool, and then obviously the poppy yellow that she had in the inner corner tied into like the yellow in the dress, and I just think the look was so good. I was actually watching like the behind the scenes of Emma getting her dress and like coming up with the look for the Met Gala, and she toyed with the idea of having brown hair, but I think the bleached hair, the bleached brows just made this look even more artistic. Like, it just so good. Next up, we have another bleached brow girly, and that is Miss Kylie Jenner. I just loved like the sculpted, it was very like matte sculpted face, which sort of tied in really well with her dress and like the idea of sculptures at the Met Gala. I just thought it was beautiful. And the bleach brows, girls, one more person looks unbelievable with bleach brows, and I'm gonna bleach these, I'm telling you. And I don't want to do that, but why does it look so good? So good. I also loved how Kylie's look was very matte, but you could see when she like turned her head to the side, there's like this gold sheen, but it wasn't like dewy makeup. It was obviously just like a highlighter product, but it was like gold, and there was some gold in her eye, and gorgeous, 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 gorgeous. This next one I have no words for. I was going to include her in like the outfit section, but I just needed to talk about this glam, which is why she's here and not in the outfit section. But that is Miss Anok Yai. Speechless, honestly. She looked like a living human statue. I don't even know if that sentence made sense, but she had this like prosthetic wig on that was like solid sculptural like, and these like tears on her face, which I can't remember the name of the piece of art that they took inspiration from, but the painting that they took inspiration from basically had these tears coming down her face, and she had those on, and she was covered in like this bronzy gold highlighty stuff all over her arms and her body and the hair and the makeup. And first of all, she is like the most beautiful girl in the whole world, but this whole look was just to die for. Stunning, stunning, darling. So that brings me to the end of this video. If you enjoyed, please leave a like, a comment, subscribe, tell your friends, please. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know what your favourite looks were, what you enjoyed about the Met Gala. If there were any looks that I maybe didn't include in this, I don't know, just talk to me about it, because I love talking about this topic. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you guys in the next one.